Hi, we're Shirley and Ken Wells from Laughing Swan Farm and Seeds. I'm going to do a quick little demo today on how I start my seeds. Oh great, the first thing is what kind of seeding mix do I use? Do not cheap out on your seeding mix. You want your seeds to grow and thrive and be healthy. Start with good quality. I use Sunshine Mix number 3 for my small and medium-sized seeds, and this is finely milled peat moss with vermiculite. This is vermiculite. Kind of looks like kitty litter, and it absorbs moisture, keeps the little root that comes out first moist. For larger seeds, I use Sunshine Mix number 5, and it's also finely ground without lumps and chunks in it, and it has perlite in it. And perlite is this. And it doesn't absorb water, but allows space for the roots to grow. Larger seeds, larger plants, larger roots. Gives them space to grow. And that's the most important thing, the roots to begin with. Okay, we'll start by making sure that everything is loose. And I fill up the seed containers. By the way, these are known as a 1204 size. 12 because you fit 12 of these in a standard 10 by 20 flat, and 4 because it has 4 cells in it. There's also 1206 with 6 cells, and this is a 1201 with just one big open one. I use this for planting onions. Okay. Once I get the mix size I want, I'm going to water it in. In fact, I think I'll do all 4 to give it a chance for the water to absorb. To start. Now, this little cool thing on the top of the water bottle here comes from Lee Valley. It's a set of 4 different nozzles, from fine to a little bit coarser, and one that is just a straight shooting one. It's absolutely invaluable because when I press on it, it not just disperses water, it also slightly compresses the soil mixes. You want your roots to have a very good adhesion and not just be floating in air. I don't actually remember all of the reasons why I started with this, but that's how I do it. Now, sometimes if the water doesn't absorb quickly, because it's peat moss, I'll just take a pencil, or I have a little bamboo stick that I use also, and just kind of mix that in. Or if you have the time, walk away and then come back in a few minutes. As long as the water gets through to the top, and it will become apparent as we go along what the importance is. You see, when you plant a seed, it needs a medium to grow in. It needs water. And one of the most important things that people don't necessarily think about is that it needs warmth. I will often use other flats just to press it down a little bit. Okay, now the first seeds I'm going to show you are the super fine ones. This is thyme, English thyme. You don't need that many, but this is what I have. So I'll take a few. Now, with thyme, any of the fine seeds, portulaca, columbine, there are petunias, there are, spearmint, a lot of herbs are very fine. You don't want to just put one seed in each cell. You'll get one little stem. So a bunch of them. And just lightly tap it in. I spread it around. There are different tools for seeding also. I have one in my growing room that I forgot to bring in today. About the length of a pencil. Put the rest back in the package. And if I do that over top, any extras, they just go in there too. Now, the really fine seeds. Actually, the rule of thumb with planting seeds is, and I'll show you with a big one, how deep do you plant it? Roughly twice the width of the seed. Not the length, not the thickness, but the width. So the thyme seeds, being so tiny, they don't actually get buried much. You could do maybe 1/8 of an inch or less than that, just barely cover. I do these kind of experiments all the time. So say on those two, we'll give it just a light little cover. But my favorite method is a little bit of vermiculite. Now the vermiculite does a couple of things. It allows the light to come in, and it holds moisture. So you're achieving two different things here. Because it holds moisture and the seeds are right on the surface, some seed packages say, press in lightly with your finger. Well, if you try to do that, the seeds are going to stick to the finger. So that doesn't work very well. So a bit of vermiculite on top. So when the root comes out, it'll have moisture right at the surface. Because if that dries out, they're toast. Now I also use this fabulous tool. It's a pressure sprayer. It's a pressure sprayer like that. And I lightly spray the surface. Now, when I watered in, that gave some moisture down where the roots are going to be, and this gives moisture right at the very top. Next most important thing. You will forget, I promise you. So I date it, I put the name of what it is, and it goes aside. We're going to get to that a bit later. Okay, the next one I'm going to do are tomato seeds. Love tomatoes. I grow thousands of tomato plants every year. Some for seed, some for sale. On the spoon just to make handling a little bit easier. So you see how wide they are. Twice that depth is how they're going to be planted. So I'm going to do one in each cell. I should have had my tool, but I don't. So I'll adapt. One in there, one there. And I will put them in the center as much as I can. That often happens, not a problem. Pick it up, move it to the next one. There we go. And cover with about twice the width of the seed with the same fine potting mix. Fine potting mix because you want to have a medium for it to grow in, but you also don't want it so coarse that the shoot is going to have trouble coming up. So we'll give it another spritz. I can go back over it again a few minutes once that has absorbed. And label. That is fireworks. Semi-determinate tomato, very early. Semi-determinate because determinate means the plant stays small, but it produces all at once. The indeterminate is more of a vine, but it will produce throughout the season. So fireworks stays small, but produces throughout the season. Okay, now I want to do some lettuce. Just press it down a bit. That's what jeans are for. This lettuce is sweet and curly. We love leaf lettuce, and the reason why leaf lettuce is so good is because you can pick the outer leaves and eat them and leave the rest to carry on growing. So I don't just do one seed, and it's really hard to see these once they go in, but I'll do 4 or 5 seeds in each one of these little cells. Tap it in, spread them around. On our seed packets, I tell you how far apart to plant your seeds. It's like carrot seeds. You don't pour a whole packet in a row and have it come up like a forest. You'll spend hours thinning them. So we suggest planting them 1 inch apart because that's what you want. So when they come up, you don't have to spend hours thinning, and there won't be all that competition. So you'll end up with better plants, stronger, healthier. They're not competing for anything. And there are tools for lots of different things. Let me take this moment. Hang on a sec. This is a great tool. Tools increase your speed and efficiency. So you put your seed in there. You see there's a slot, and you see how this is like this. You put that in. For large seeds, you'd have it there, but you just turn it down to accommodate the size of seed you're using. So then as I go along for carrots, tap, 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 tap. Radishes, carrots, lettuce, a lot of different things that get planted directly in the garden. Cool tool. I love that tool. Again, moisture on top, just enough to soak through that layer we put in. Sweet and curly, and the label. By the way, all of our seeds that aren't directly seeded get started on heat mats. Absolutely 100%. The whole reason for that is you want to give the seeds, you want to replicate their natural growing environment, and that is warm soil. A lot of people like to plant things out when the air is warm. Now for things like tomatoes, peppers, basil, I could go on, but I won't. You want the soil to be warm, not just the air. The air can be one temperature. Oh, it's so warm, I'll plant out. But the soil needs to be warm. Especially the three sisters, squash, beans, and corn. If your soil isn't warm, the seeds will just rot right there in the soil. Some people think that it's all about the seeds rotting, and it's the seeds' fault. Nope, not that one. You want the soil temperature to be warm. Okay, let's tap that in. Fingers are so useful. So what I have here are some Elsa Craig. It's a sweet onion. It's very large, a sweet Kelsey type. A very large onion, but it's also an excellent keeper. You may have heard of Walla Walla. It's very popular. We actually prefer the Elsa Craig. So again, on the spoon, and I'll just spread them out as evenly as I can. It's not important if you have seeds butting up against each other, because when these have grown and it's time to put them out in the garden, they're fairly easy to separate. So spring onions, red onions, cooking onions, sweet onions, all of our onions get started this way. Yes, you can direct seed in the garden if you want to wait that much longer for the harvest. Forgot to show you the size of the seeds, but onions are a lot easier than people think. Then one of the tricks to growing onions is once they start growing, you'll see that the bulb starts coming out of the ground. There's the ground, and the bulb starts coming up like that, and people think, oh, it's a root vegetable, I'll cover it up. If you cover it up, it's probably going to rot. The shoulders of the onion actually need the sun on them. They need to be baked by the sun. So leave them be. If they're coming up, they want to come up. So Elsa Craig, label in, and one last one I'll show you are the bigger seeds. Here I have some pumpkin, Cinderella pumpkin. So the width there is very close to 1/2 inch. So here's one of my tricks I've learned. Most people will lay them flat. You never want to put them in vertically, but I put them in on their edge. And I learned that from a German seed company. On their edge. So I don't know which way anything's going to go, by putting it on its edge, I've actually had way better success. Put them in on their edge, twice the depth, cover with soil. Some of you noticed I did not moisten this. That's because February 28th, today, is actually too early to start pumpkin, squash, cucumbers inside, unless you really have a place to keep them until they go out in, let me see, March, April, May, about 3 months. They'll just be horrible to deal with. So there you go with that. Then I'm going to empty it out and take the seeds out and put them back in the envelope. Let them dry a bit, put them back in the envelope. So those are my secrets for how to plant different sizes of seeds. And always on a heat mat. A heat mat is not an expense, it's an investment. Thank you very much, and have a fabulous growing season.